Hello, everyone. In life right now, everything is crazy, right? People are so afraid of what's happening. Life's changing. The weather's insane. And life becomes like a cacophony of sound and color and noise and screaming and shouting. And how do you actually stop at one point and say, what is the meaning of all this? Why are we going through all this craziness? And how do I cope with the meaning of life or anything? Now, our guest today, Ken Stearns, asked the question, Dear God, what is going on? So on that note, let's see how Ken navigated this craziness of life. And I know it's been crazy. We were just talking about COVID, which is 3 years ago, but it's just changed life so much since then.
Absolutely.
So on that note, how are you today, Ken?
Carina, I'm doing good. And thanks for having me on the show. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you for being here. So before we start on our Dear God, tell me a bit about who is Ken in the grand scheme of things.
Sure. I'm this, I don't know where it came out of my bio somehow. It came out of my head. I fancied calling myself a Midwestern kid. A well-seasoned Midwestern kid.
I like it.
Being an old guy from the Midwest, but with a still kid at heart, kind of an outlook on life. And, as a regular regular guy, went to college and ended up in California in Los Angeles, married, a couple of kids, and just before the first kid comes, I quit my accounting job. My wife was pregnant, quit the accounting job to leave it for the good, safe job, and leave it for the safety of a sales job, door to door with a third of the salary. I don't know what happened, but I had some sort of midlife panic crisis at 26, and ended up in a couple of series of sales jobs because I was pretty bad at it, and somehow landed at that job of last resort, insurance guy, and I somehow survived the brutal metrics that it is to survive insurance. And I got pretty good at it. And I ended up on the inside of a company in Los Angeles somehow. I was an outside kind of contract person, if you will, an agent. And then I ended up as an employee, kind of head of sales for a small regional company. And that just happened to lead me to, these weird set of circumstances, tragedies in some ways. There was a national health plan being implemented by the Clintons, and the company I worked for was in that niche market. And basically one day, we called all 400 people in and said, goodbye. We're shutting the doors. We're out of business. We've been regulated out of business. And so I got spun off. I also got spun off with the business at the end, and I ended up, kind of looking after that, and that search ended up landing me in Asia.
Wow.
So kind of a wild, it was a bit of a stretch, right? I'm, sitting there in Santa Monica Beach one morning, driving to work, and the phone rings, and it's a call from Hong Kong, and I can still remember pulling my minivan over, staring out at the beach, having a call with somebody, and it would change my life.
I love those. I love it.
It's just wild, right? I just followed, I just was kind of following along, and brought my family out there. And family all went back, ended up divorced, and family was all back by the time about 12 years had passed. So my one daughter grew up there, spent 16 years, or not 16, sorry, 12 years, 12 years in Asia, the other one about 6. And so I started a series of roles after that got kind of increasingly crazy, more demanding, and ended up living in country. So I was in Hong Kong first for 12 years. And it's kind of a nice job because you stay in Hong Kong and then you travel to these different countries to help support a local business. Yes, and then eventually they're like, yeah, you're too expensive to send around. You need to run something. So then they ship you to a country and you disappear.
Wow.
And so I kind of ended up getting a fix-it guy label, and they started sending me around country to country, and ultimately ended up in a job in Thailand, and it was quite a soft job, I would call it. after some, insane rolls.
Mm-hmm.
I rode the bull. It was like riding the bull, and the bell rang, and I got knocked off, and I kind of woke up with a concussion.
Yes.
And I was in Thailand, and they were like, "You should rest for a while."
Entirely, and that's a good place to rest, right?
You could not get a better spot in Bangkok. Soft job, good pay. It was a good place to kind of recover from, my PTSD of corporate life
Yes.
there. And I had this idea, for whatever reasons, compulsion to get a guitar. And, I was at home with the U.S. with my daughter. We traveled and coming back from her school. And I just I want to do something for myself. I got a nice bonus. I'm in this job. I want to get a guitar, and I have time. I'm a bachelor. I'll get it, and I'll get a good guitar, and I'll give it 2 years, and I'll get a teacher. That was my promise. If I spend the money, I have to commit to 2 years and a teacher, right? So it was like this, I couldn't just get the guitar and look at it. I needed to get someone to come and force me to play it. And what better than a teacher, right? Because they're coming every week to get their paycheck.
Yes.
So you have to be
Great
ready.
accountability partner too.
I have a whole Ken's rule about this. I call it rice bowl. Basically, it's, somebody's rice. I became his rice bowl. He would feed his family through coming to me, and I would achieve my dream, or not my dream, but a goal of at least playing decently for myself through him.
I love it. Win-win-win. Beautiful.
It's a super win-win-win, right? And it's a great strategy for hitting your targets, or your personal goals. And I didn't know it though, but this guy would change my life, change the direction of my life. He's a guy from the middle of the south of Philippines, southern Philippines, born from a priest. So it's a pretty controversial life start. And he's got his own incredible story. He ends up in Thailand, and he's just a beautiful human with a great family. And we hit it off. And he starts saying, we should write a song every Sunday. Let's write a song. Let's write a song. And I was like, I don't know anything about songwriting, and I can't even play to listen to myself. I can play four chords terribly. How you're talking about songwriting? This guy's crazy. And then it dawned on me one day, hey, I have these letters that I had started. I had some book concept ideas. I thought one day I would be a public speaker, in the future, and the idea was to write a book. And I thought I started with a book called Dear Dad. My dad was a businessman, a successful corporate guy, and I ended up kind of being reasonably successful. And there were so many, and he passed away when I was about 28, 29. Mm-hmm. And so all these great career achievements and disappointments that I never got to share with that guy, a father figure, to get that, good boy, attaboys, and, or it's okay, sons, son. And so it was kind of a part I missed out on. And felt it, and I felt it. And so I thought it was there'd be other people like myself, and I could write those letters. Dear Dad, this happened. And I got some of those done, but somewhere along the way, visiting my mom and coming back to Asia, going to see my mom, and my mom's faith was super strong. And somewhere in there, I started, and I don't really remember when it happened, but I also started writing Dear God, asking questions. And the one I had the most written down was faith. What is faith? And I think I would attribute to my mom's faith was incredibly strong. And I think it probably baffled me. It probably puzzled me a little bit. I was, I had grown, and I lived in all these countries where there was, the biggest Hindu country. I lived in the biggest Muslim country. I lived in countries with no religion. So Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim. I lived in the three biggest. The draw of all three, and in countries with nothing. I believed everything and nothing.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Like when all of a sudden it's like, I believe that. That makes so much sense to me when you listen to the Hindus, right? And then you hear about Allah, and you're like, yeah, I get it. And it challenged a lot of my Catholic upbringing, and then the church doctrine. So I was probably a little bit baffled, and started writing this letter. So I went. One Sunday when he's asking me, let's write a song, I went inside, got these old notes, and I knew I knew what I had. And I was like, but I hadn't looked at it in 2 years, just scraggly notes from airplanes. And I said, let's pull out faith, get a highlighter. And we start highlighting basically words, sentences that would turn into verses, and then a chorus. And it was all right there. It was there, sitting in the drawer, like he knew it was, almost
Yes.
like he knew it was around. And that led me to, it was so much fun, so inspiring. I was like, man, let's get another one. And we found another one. And then sure enough, man, by the third one, I was out of words. So I started writing the Dear God book to satisfy my lyrical intentions. And that spark start lighting the real fire around Dear God, and then discovering how I wanted to construct the book and what the ideas were and what it meant to me. And so that kind of led me down the road. It was a really powerful person to meet.
Yes, and I love the synchronicities. Like it just happens. It's no coincidence that you met with all the teachers, the guitar teachers in the world. You met him.
I met him.
So I just love the whole pattern of life. It's so beautiful.
Right? When you see it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Many people, I think, Carina, they miss it.
I know, and that's so sad, because you just need to see it, because it's happening all the time. So it's these miracles happening all the time.
It's a miracle.
Yes, and you see the mosaic of your life just unfolding in this beautiful, let's say, lotus flower, because you're talking Buddhism or whatever it is.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, it's a lotus flower.
Yes, and it's beautiful. So I have to ask you this: so how did this change your feeling of faith? So did you actually come to terms with it, and how did it change your life? How did it change it now? Like,
oh yeah, it's an interesting journey, because it's not that. I mean, it's a while ago, but not that long ago. So I started looking at the book. I'll kind of visit the construct of the book a little bit, and then I'll come back to the question, because I think in the process it didn't change anything. I was in that grinding mode, and it's only as seeing, and I'll kind of tell you the part of the story when I come back, but it has affected me, but more now than then. So I put the book together. Ultimately, the idea was there were 4 parts of the book: the book of self, any kind of you, the book of others, something between you and I we would use, skill set, and then the book of all, kind of a humanity approach. Call that humanity, and then the book of you. Whoever that spiritual belief you have, wherever you're at on that spectrum, God or universe or something else.
Oh yes, whatever it is.
Yes. Yeah, wherever you're on that I call it a spectrum now.
Yes.
It's a spiritual. It's kind of a spiritual spectrum, right? You believe in God 100% as a creator of everything, and you're over there in that part, or you're somewhere you're not sure, but you believe in God, but you're not sure where it starts and stops, and then all the way to nothing. It's a random number generator. You're somewhere on the spectrum.
Right. And a lot of times it's just the concept, the concepts are the same, but it's just the words people use.
That's so good.
Some people it's God, and other people shy away from God because of the implications of maybe a Catholic background or Catholic upbringing and what it means. So they'll go universe or whatever it, or the divine, and at the end of the day, if you speak, you're all speaking the same language. You're just using different words, right?
Yeah, it's like even all the religions end up in one spot.
Yes.
So it's just there's one thing of something, right? We all can't figure that out.
Yes.
And so the first part of the book of self, I put in there your yesterdays, your todays, your tomorrows. And I kind of call that the battlefield of your mind. Because really your yesterday, that's the past, and your future never is, as we were taught, your future, there's no such thing as your future. It's only in your present, right? And your past is just something. But anyway, that's the battlefield of your mind. And then between 2 people, acceptance, forgiveness, and compassion.
Yes, nice.
Things, if we interacted with people in that way, in a one-to-one environment, the world would be a better place generally. And then kind of the humanity approach was love, karma, and service. You got that love and humanity, treating people, everybody, the universe, basically how you want to be treated. Leaving it
Yes.
better than, better. All those adages grandma told us, right? Treat people like you want to be treated, leave it cleaner than you found it, all
Yes.
that stuff, right?
Yes.
Clean up after your own mess, all the general kind of how to be a good human rule. Love, karma. And then the last one is service, and being in service to others. In some way, right? If we're in that position, we should try to be in. And what does that mean? And then the last one was the Book of You, which is faith, hope, and prayer. And I think prayer is a place where you can connect, or meditation, you can connect with that being. The faith, I guess, is. I like a lot of my songs and everything comes back to faith in yourself. Ultimately, God has faith in yourself. It's not about faith in God. It's actually, if you follow the full circle, it's up to you.
Yes. Yes.
And God has total faith in us, right?
Yes. Well, God is within us, because that's how
Yes.
he, she, it, whatever,
Yeah.
made, or
Yeah. So it is
thought
really,
about us, or whatever it is. It's like that goes into a whole different philosophical discussion. But isn't that so? Shouldn't we all be like having faith in ourselves, or in our own being, because that's where God is, right?
That's where God is. When you look in the, you're holding up you're looking around, and you're actually looking in the, you're like, wait a minute, I keep looking for this person, and I just keep seeing mirrors.
Yes.
It'll dawn on you eventually.
Yes, I love that. Like,
It'll dawn on you eventually.
You walk down the road with smiling, and everyone smiles at you, and you think, wow, everyone's so friendly. And you walk down the road and you growling because you got upset because, I don't know, someone said something to you, and you wonder why everyone glares at you. You go oh, this place is so terrible. And I love it. I just love it.
Absolutely. Looking right back at you.
Yes.
Looking right back at you. And so for me, I think hope was one where, I think that's a tricky one, because I think it's directly relates to where you're at on the spectrum. And I'd like to be, and I'm just coming to that conclusion over the last few months, or articulation, I guess, that the more faith you've got, the greater the potential for hope that you can generate. And I think the less faith you've got, the less belief on that side, the less you are on the spectrum, it's more difficult it is to generate hope. Because you're not tangibly hoping, there's not anything beyond yourself, right? You can't see anything past yourself.
Yes.
Only the random number generator. And, then it's difficult to generate. Sometimes hope comes from somewhere else, right? I mean, it may come from within, but it's the knowledge that there is something bigger. I think. So I'm still working that out.
Yes.
So I had all this great idea to write. So I finally, that was the structure. And it took a while to get to it. I was even a whole year living in India and putting this kind of part together. I got a chance to work back in Vietnam. So I had been to a few countries. I came back to Vietnam and really SARS started, or COVID started. And I had a chance to put the finishing touches on the book there. And at some point I had 6 whiteboards drilled in the wall down my hallway.
That's pretty cool. Well, I suppose it beats writing on the walls, right?
Yeah, well, it could erase it. It was even more practical. I think I wrote on the walls and then said, oh, crap, I better go get some whiteboards.
Right. Oh, no, what am I going to do?
I was locked inside, you're going a little crazy.
Right.
So there I was, designing and kind of coming up with this idea of my exit strategy. What am I going to do in my third act? I've got this book. Am I going to be a speaker? What am I going to do? And I got an idea of a podcast. I don't know how. People ask me, and I'm like, can't tell you how it came together. And that idea of doing a podcast, traveling, was there. And then using the natural next step in my creative kind of juice go was use the book to create questions. Yes. So the jars concept is I've created 444 questions from the book and preprint those and put them inside this jar. I got these ginormous jars, and that sits between myself and the guest. and they pull one question at a time. And, I've kind of laughed, and it's engaging. So they pull a question, we talk about it based on their life experience. And it's those questions about yesterday's, today's, acceptance, forgiveness, compassion, faith, love, hope, all that stuff. So it's this candy jar of humans topics.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful.
And so the other part of that story that I wanted to share. So I kind of joke now, but I'm not sure it's not true that I wrote this book and I had all these letters, which were really questions to God. Am I getting it right? Is this what love is? Am I right about faith, acceptance? It was kind of these are my ideas. Isn't this the way it should be? Or isn't this the way it is? And, God was like, good question. You should go ask somebody. And so I ended up with a podcast idea, running around the country, asking 400 people the questions to get my answer.
That's beautiful.
To find out if I'm on the right path.
And I'd like to ask, and then of course now you'd know the follow-up question, like, how many mirrors did you find along the way?
Yeah, a lot. It's
and did they just confirm your feelings about what it is? Because surely it's just like a feeling. It's a feeling within you, and it's different for everybody depending on their circumstances or their life experience or whatever it is. So how many people did you attract into your life that had the same kind of concepts, the same ideas that you had?
I don't definitely a few people I've come across where it is people are like, it's inspiring. So I think sometimes when I meet people, they have these ideas of things they want to do, steps they want to break through, right? I think this is kind of they want to have that and they're thinking about it. And for sure what I'm doing is a little bit on the edge.
Yes.
Not many people quit a good corporate job and just throw it all in. I burnt my boats. I mean, I came back and I sailed back and I have burnt my boats and I'm all in. I'm not going back to corporate. I don't know what it's going to look like. Hopefully I have enough money to finish the project. Hopefully I get onto the next good idea. And I'm just following the path that's laid out in front of me. And, and I know I'm doing good work and I have a belief. One of my rules, the universe hates an imbalance, and I'm creating an imbalance the best I can. But the mirror idea, Carina, it's actually given me some thought. How many times have I come across that where it's all me? And man, I've had some come to Jesus moments in the mirror.
Yes. And how you realize, because one of my philosophies is always that there's always blessings in everything you do. And
I agree.
Always. And a lot of times, you're in the situation and it seems like it's the end of the world. If you follow, I don't know if you follow my podcast, but you know that I was, I've also got a book, but I was arrested.
Yes.
And I was in detention for 8.5 months for immigration, for immigration.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah, but still, you're in prison. I mean, that's not.
Yes. And, everyone says like, it was the end. It must have been the end of the world. And yes, initially it was scary. But at the end of the day, it was a great experience because I met so many beautiful people and I learned a lot about myself. So it was really a blessing in a really an odd way, So it's quite interesting. And I also believe that if you're in the right path, the doors open. And you've experienced that now, right, as well.
Yes.
Okay. How the doors, it's almost like you were guided to do this podcast. Like I was guided to do the podcast as well.
Yes.
It's like, just listen to your people around you and just do what you have to do. So
we said the signs are there, right? People, we miss them. And I am, I'm 1,000 now going, oh my God, I have been this blind for like 50 years. Are you 60 years? Are you kidding me? This has been happening around me and I've been this blind. But I was so lost in the day-to-day grind and I wasn't open. I wasn't paying attention, I guess, or it wasn't my time.
Yes, no, it wasn't it wasn't your time. But now, then I have to ask you the question again. How's that influence? That obviously without even saying it, but I think you've already answered the question about faith.
Yeah. So it's honed, it's awakened my faith. I can for sure say now. I heard a guest said this statement, and it just was like, dang, there's no escaping it. Like I'm terrified of my faith because it was, like I'm a Reformed Catholic, so I'm terrified of it. But it's also, as Einstein said, you either believe everything is a miracle or nothing.
Yes.
And man, I hate absolutes. I'm a third guy. Like, absolutes on the end, and then there's a middle ground on everything. And on this one, he's right. You either believe you're either almost takes my spectrum argument away, right? You either
Yes.
believe or you don't.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
it's an on-off switch, honestly.
Yes.
And so my spectrum is a polite way, give people some wiggle room. But at the end of the day, it's either everything or nothing. And I am now, I am 100% in the everything camp. I've seen what I think is a miracle. I can share that story if you want. It's not really long, but it's a miracle. It was
I'd
a
love
message.
that.
It was a
Yes,
message.
I love miracles.
And
It's happening all the time.
Yeah, and it's blown me away. So yeah, it's changed my faith. It's brought it back. It's not the same faith because I don't think I believed. I don't think I ever. I was I was just a rote Christian, right? I just went to church and did whatever was on in front of me, just to say it. And I would enjoy the peaceful moments. I enjoyed church. I always enjoyed going to church. But I didn't know what faith was. I didn't know, how to talk to God. I didn't know who God was, and I have a way different relationship with God. I can say that.
You'll have to tell us about the miracle. Like, what was it that shifted, that made that such huge shift?
Yeah. So I went to visit somebody who was a boss, a very senior corporate person, an amazing human, and he had recently remarried, not like the other day. It's been some years, and I got to stay with them, which is also kind of weird, right? You're staying with your boss that you knew from overseas, and it's like that's somebody who respects you and is supporting you. But also was able to be a super senior guy, and so this is a really interesting human, and he's a hard guy, like a hard ass senior corporate person, and I meet him and his wife, and the first day I'm in their house, we go to lunch, and I'm in the back seat, and they were in love. It was like so amazing. Like I know so many friends, but these guys are in love. Like teenagers, and they're holding hands like this on top of the gear shift on the way to lunch. I mean, he's 63.
Doesn't matter.
Oh, it's so cute. I was in love with it, right? But I was in the back seat, Carina, and I was meant to see this image.
Yes.
Like I 100% saw a frame of love in this hand touching, holding, and I was like, dang. That's powerful. And him, and I know all the story. So we get back from lunch, and I said, hey, guys, I want to share before we get, because, it'll be crazy the next couple of days, and then I'm leaving. I just want to show you a jar, and I want you to kind of see it and pull a question. I want you to experience a little bit, just for fun. And so bring in the jar, and the jar is beautiful, and I want to show off the jar. And so they reach in, and they get a question. And his question, he reads it out. Can love be felt through the touch of a hand?
Oh, wow. I'm getting cold. I'm getting shivers. Wow.
And I was like, they had no idea, but they looked at each other, and that was their love language.
Yes. Oh.
And I looked at them and I said, I've seen, you have, seriously, is that your question? I was freaking out.
I'm sure.
So that trip ends. I drive my very next guest. And I have this jar now. Carina, it's a big jar. It holds 400 questions, 444 big plastic questions on playing cards, but really thick playing cards. And I dump them out when I get to the clients, and I shuffle them, and then I stuff them in the jar, and then the jar sits in front of the person, and it's open faced in front of them, and I see the back end, I see the bottom, because it lays on its side because it's too tall to reach. It's it's laying on its side, and I look across at the jar, and the question staring at me from the inside at the bottom of the jar, looking at me, right side up.
Mm-hmm.
Can love be felt to the touch of a hand?
Wow.
And I'm like, this is bananas. Like that's. I'm like, is somebody sending like I hear you. Like I hear you. Okay. I don't know who it is. I don't know what's going on, but I hear you. And it kind of freaked me out. So the next interview, and I sent a message to my friend. I'm like, you would not believe what happened.
Yes.
And he's like, and so he's just like, wow, what can he doesn't know what to say. And I get to the next interview and I'm telling the story as in the pre-chat. And the lady's like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Blah, blah, blah. About her third or fourth question, can love be felt to the touch of a hand? Now, you got to remember, there's 444 questions. I've seen this question 3 times in 3 touches of the jar. It's a little weird to me.
Wow.
She goes on to tell her story. She's aging her mom in place. Her mom's she aged her mom in place. And then hospiced her mom when her mom had a cancerous brain tumor, a rare brain tumor.
Oh yes, wow.
Tough story, but a happy story, right? She got to be with her mom, and she's telling the story. It's a beautiful story. But the cancer was a rare cancer, and I said, "Oh, that sounds familiar. What is the name of that again?" I said, "Okay," and I.
Oh. Ken?
His
Hello?
Daughter. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Ken. You just froze for a bit. That was so weird.
Yeah,
okay, you were talking about a rare cancer.
That's somebody knocking on the door.
Wow.
So the mother had died of a rare brain cancer, and she had hospiced her mom in place. And I knew what that was. It was the same brain cancer that my boss, his daughter, had died of that year.
Wow.
I messaged him in the van. The question came up again, and also this she died of the same cancer. I was like, that's the message. And he said, it's a hard day. It's Sally's birthday.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So the message was from Sally.
Yes. Oh, wow. That is a beautiful story.
Can love be felt to the touch of a hand? And so, she was saying, I felt it. She died in his arms, holding her. Whew.
Wow.
I was in the van for a while going, whoa, I'm not crying. Who's crying in here? I was looking at the van going, okay, that's bananas.
Wow.
And I won't see that question for a while.
That is a beautiful story. I'm actually getting cold. I've got cold, it's beautiful. So that changed everything for you.
That was on the end. That was towards before I took a break. And that stuck with me. It was hard to get back in the saddle and start interviewing after, because I was like, it can't be that magic after that. But who knows? And I think you said it before. You feel like sometimes you're not on your journey, in a way, right? You're, things happen. You've made the best of it. You've kept an open mind.
Yes.
You're following your right. You've kind of said, okay, this is bad, but it could be worse. And what can I do with this? And the door opens.
Yes.
And you're following it. And so it's kind of like, I'm sure you're having similar things where you're on the right path.
Yes. Yes.
And I felt like that was a nod. You're doing good work. You're on the right path. And the universe sees it. And it's, how can you plan all of that ahead of time and put the card in the bottom of the jar and make me interview that lady on her birthday who had the same cancer as her? That's a miracle. You can't,
Yes,
that's not
yes, yes,
accidental. That's
yes.
not that makes lottery tickets look like nothing.
Yes, yes, exactly. And like seeing that picture with them holding hands and feeling that love, but it's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And it just like changes everything,
It changed
right?
everything for me. Yeah. And the magic of the, I always said the jars, it's interesting. The jar story, when when I had the idea, when it struck me to call it, it was called Project.
Okay. I can't hear you. Just suddenly. Maybe you pressed the mute button? That is so weird.
Let me check my audio.
Ah, there you are. You're back on air.
Okay. Back.
I don't know. That was weird. Okay, now you're not. Now I can't hear you again.
Ken? No, I can't. Oh, there we go. No? Huh.
Okay, now I can hear you.
You can. I'm back.
You're back.
Oh, that's kind of strange, huh?
Okay, so you're speaking about, wow. So the universe is telling us something here today, right?
Some gremlins going on.
You're talking about the jar. Before you had the jar, you were talking about the idea of the jar.
Yeah.
For that, so you were speaking about what happened, what did you have before the jar? That's what I think that's
Yeah, it was called Project 444. And that was for the questions and the cities or the number of people I would interview. And then I got thunderstruck through kind of another side story, but I got thunderstruck with the name The Jar. Just like, boom. Wow. It wasn't my idea. And when that happened, I also instantly knew what it looked like and who I needed to call.
Mm-hmm.
It was a gentleman I had met in 2003 in Bali, Indonesia. An American glassblower, crazy guy. Love this guy, Ron, living out there in Bali, married to a Balinese, has his glass studio doing touristy stuff and glass stuff.
Nice.
And so I immediately got a hold, to try to find him. I hadn't talked to him in 7 years. Honestly, I hadn't talked to him in 7 years. Maybe I liked a couple Facebook posts, but I hadn't talked to him in at least 5-7 years. Got him on Facebook, found out he was in the US, lost his visa, lost his business. He was in total depression, living with his mother in Northern California and broke. And I rang him up and he's, but instantly
Oh, come on. You're frozen again, Ken. This is crazy.
oh yeah, I'm checking my.
Wow.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was an instant connection again, and I told him what I was doing, and he was immediately lifted. His spirits just came up, and I had a job for him, and I commissioned him to make four jars.
Yes, of course.
Of course, it would be 4.
Yes.
Right, of course, it would be 4. And as the universe, I was in Vietnam, and he was in the U.S. And I was on my way back, still another couple months, and it took a long time. But he made 3 jars, and the universe was not going to let him make the 4th jar. Like everything happened to stop it. Wow. Until about a week before I was coming back, and I said, "Dude, wait for me. I'm coming to San Francisco. We'll do it together, and I'll make a video." The cool part, let me come in because I want to see it made, and I want to get it. I want to document it. Yes, anyway, so it all happened, and it was amazing. So he got enough money. He was excited. Things opened up. He's back in Indonesia. Things are really good for him now, and he built these 4 jars. But he's such an intense guy. The point of the story is the jars have, they're built with purpose, intention, and they have life, if you will. I mean, he blew his own. And his thing was each jar is named. There's the pickle jar, the candy jar, the olive jar.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't remember the last of the four, but there's the four, and each one's got a story to it. The olive jar is noble. And so this is a guy who when he was making them and putting a little bit of these decorations, it was intentional. He was breathing life into these things. And so I always said the jars have, they're part of the show, and they've got their own energy.
Yes,
inside
powerful. It's almost like when you cook, you can always taste someone that loves to cook. The food always tastes better than someone that's just like, I have to cook and let's just throw something together. You can taste the difference. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, he was that guy. He just, and again, looking, like I would tend to call myself goofy or silly in a past life, but now I know I met him for this purpose. I didn't meet him in Indonesia to buy a piece of glass off of him or something from him 20 years ago. I met him 20 years ago because I needed him for this.
Yes. I mean, and what are the odds of that you remembered him and at the right time when you needed the jars.
And he was in San Francisco for this.
And he was in San Francisco. So you had like access. You didn't have to go to Bali to find him, right?
I didn't have to go anywhere. And I picked the jars on the way up. I bought my van in LA and I drove it up to Portland and I picked up the jars on the way. Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff. Looking back, I'm just going, okay, yeah, I'm an idiot. I didn't understand.
No, don't say that. Take that back. But what I'm saying is that that's what I believe. When you're in the right place and when you've committed to something, it's like the angels and everything just falls into place and synchronicities just guide you to where you have to go. And there's no ways, you have to plan. You plan, you want to do this and that. But sometimes, one of my favorite sayings is, I think it's Japanese, man or woman plans, God laughs. And that's just being stuck. It's just so perfect for me anyway.
That's a big giggle. I do like what you said there was so good, Gina, that when you commit.
Yes.
And
yes. Ken. You're frozen again.
Yeah, we reset again. I'm getting like a double reset. Can you hear me?
Okay, now I can hear you. Okay, so you have to go back to when you were you saying like when we commit.
Yeah, and just the way you said once you commit, and that really struck me. It's interesting the way you said it, and then I was like, yeah, that's what happened when I committed, and it was that fear of letting go or the fear of letting go. The fear of letting go is actually the actual fear of letting go and getting over that. And stepping over that kind of threshold of the commitment and the fear, and the fear kind of goes away. And it's a weird thing, right?
Yes.
Because how does that work? Because you step through once you commit, it's terrifying. But once you step through the threshold, the fear's gone.
Yes. Because suddenly it doesn't matter anymore because you've committed and you've got all this like energy to just focus on where you need to go, right?
Yeah.
It almost feels like you're so focused on where you need to go that the fear doesn't exist anymore unless you allow it to, unless you allow your head to start questioning and self-doubt, which happens. It happens.
Yes.
But if you're in that energy of commitment, it's just because you feel that and then things start to open and life gets even more delicious because then you start seeing the synchronicities as well.
Yeah, that's what I've had some of those moments where you feel, almost selfish. Like, does everybody see this?
I know. But it's also like life is more vibrant, right? Like I walk down the street and everything's so beautiful. The sky's bluer, the flowers are brighter. The street is paved with gold. It's just so beautiful.
I do like that. You got the energy, your energy, your frequencies, you're open.
Yes.
Instead of just having this, kind of closing your force field, you're sending your connections out, right? You're connecting to all these things
yes.
as you're walking down the street. So of course, boom, the tree looks greener because the tree's like, oh, hello, and
Yes,
I
exactly
see
that.
you, you see me,
Yes,
I think everything's
yes.
smile like you said before, when you're smiling down the street, the world smiles back.
No, it's
And maybe
beautiful.
that's a silly old adage, but it kind of makes sense, like even chemically.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Like people, I always say there's so many people that are feeling depressed. I've come across so many people, just even in my environment, if people are sad, they're depressed. And I say, well, put your phone down and look up, and you'll see how different you feel, right? Right?
Yeah.
Because everyone's looking down and hunched over their phones or whatever it is. Just look up
Look
and
up.
see the sun.
See and look around and see people and smile. I
Yes.
I always, no matter I traveled about 8 months, 200, 200 people, 60 cities
Nice.
alone,
Nice.
and there were some
Yeah.
tough times,
Yeah, I'm
some
sure.
doubting times, some tough stories, things didn't work out. There's some, there's some, it's not all, it wasn't all rose petals.
Mm-hmm.
But there are those, where you just, you're like, as soon as I go and do an interview and I meet somebody again and I get human contact and
Yes.
somebody's vulnerable and we connect and I hear their story and I realize how amazing humanity is again. And I'm like, okay, I get it now. That's why I'm here. This is what I'm doing again. This is
Yes.
what I'm supposed to worry about, not
Yes.
other stuff. The other stuff actually is going to take care of itself.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And that's one reason that why I love this podcast. It's because of that. It's because you connect with so many beautiful. I mean, like,
Yes.
what are the odds of us ever speaking or meeting or anything, and sharing the stories and the miracles? It's such a beautiful, and it really is. That connection is so energizing.
Yeah, that's really what was my saving grace was what I was supposed to be doing,
Yes, yes, yes.
not the other stuff, right? And as long as I focus on that, the days are great. So it's been an amazing journey so far. So I'm starting back up next week. I'm in Atlanta. I'm on the East Coast,
Nice,
and it's just been an amazing first half. And so go to Florida and
nice.
Mississippi, Alabama. Then kind of up and a little bit into the middle, and then down to Texas, and then across to California. Maybe I can
Oh,
see you.
nice.
Maybe you can sit in front of the jar, Carina.
Oh, that could be fun. Yes, let me know if you come to San Diego.
Oh, San Diego's on there for sure. I'll be in San Diego.
Yes, we can do a swap here. I'd love to see what's inside the jar.
Yeah,
That would be fun.
it would be a lot of. You would be a lot of fun. It's a great journey. It's lovely to get people to articulate things they think about, but they don't necessarily get a chance to express.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
it's
And it's nice to have
really
that conversation.
and it's fun to have the conversation. Yeah, it'd be fun.
Well, that's good. So that's something to look forward to, people. We're going to be meeting and see
Yeah,
what the jar has in store
I
for
love it.
for me, right?
Yeah, I love it.
It's very
You're in my
cool.
path now, Carina.
Well, sharing's caring, Ken.
Yes, that's for sure.
Ken, tell me a bit about where can people find you?
Yeah, they can. I think there's just one easy place. We got all kinds of socials, but I think the easiest place to start is thejar.live. So just a www address, thejar.live. And Carina, as I was telling you before, we just put up when you finish the registration process, you get a link to the first part of the book, the book of
Nice.
self.
Nice.
And so it's just a little cheap little PDF. And you can download it, probably read on your phone or something, or at your desktop. And it's about your yesterdays, todays, and tomorrows. And there's 4 letters for each topic, so there's 12 letters, and they're short little letters. And I think maybe one of my songs, it's presented as a poem, but I think 1 or 2 of my songs are in there as well.
Ah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yes. So go
cool.
and download that. That sounds like so much fun. And if someone is in your area that you coming like driving through, Can they reach out and say, hey, Ken, I want to be on your show?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the site, on the jar site, is a thing called Road Trippers. And Road Trippers is kind of like this little travel planning app. And I've joined it. And you can see every city I'm going to be at, every city I've been at, all 111, although I've got about 100 something planned. A few more to go, a few more to sneak in. But you can go to the site and find out where I'm going to be and see if I'm going to be in your city. And then just send an email, and there's a be a guest. There's a be a guest button, and you just fill that out.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
You'll probably be on the show.
Do you dare? Do you dare be on Ken's show?
Yeah.
Question. You'll have to decide, right? So go to the website and check it out. It sounds
be
like
brave.
So much fun.
Be brave.
Yes, be brave. Be brave. Take that leap of faith. Right? Ken, tell us now, have you found freedom?
Oh, funny. What an interesting setup question. It's almost like, do you know the backstory? I have. I like to say I'm a free man. I'm a free man. It's kind of funny. Honestly, it's quite funny because I just finished a song called I'm a Free Man. And I really did start it the day I quit, the day I called my boss and said, I'm done. I won't be signing my contract. I'll be finishing and I'll be going back to the U.S. And, like that's a big decision.
Right.
Retiring, this is retiring, right? I'm retiring. Yes. I mean, like, who says that word? And, just overwhelmed with emotion and just saying, I'm a free man. And then I wrote a song about it, basically. And that's the story is, you start off as a kid, you've got dreams of who you're going to be. You dream whoever you want to be. And then you find out that, the role you're in and the sacrifices you.
Okay. You're silent again. Wow. I wonder what this is, sacrifices. I wonder what it is.
Refresh.
Okay, I can hear you now singing.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I should have got the guitar.
Okay. So do you want to start again with your freedom?
Yeah. So the mantra
story.
was, the freedom story is really just that idea of quitting, and the emotion that came with it, and then kind of following that up with a song, and really that cycle of being a kid and having every dream. The dream can be whatever you want to dream, right? You dream whatever you can be, a rocket man in the sky, or a doctor who saves lives, or a businessman who comes home to their family, right? And then you sign your name away, right? You sign your name on the line, you give your life away, you make a lot of sacrifices, and then you're in that trap. And you've got things, and you've got a family, and you have commitments, and little by little, sell your soul, brick by brick. I built my walls, and eventually you're in your own prison in life.
Yes,
and I was that guy, and at some point you sell that the cost of your freedom, right? You pay for your own enslavement. And you how you get that back. And so it's kind of a song about that. And at the end, believing in myself, no matter how dire the straits, I always believed in myself. But you have to walk that road alone in a way.
Yes.
And I think, Carina, your story, you walk the road alone. Yes. At some point when you're in there. So what it taught you was what your time was when you were ready, when it was that time, you had to walk it alone to get your life back, for you to own it.
Yes.
Right. For you to own it again.
Yes.
And so that's what the song says. And, and then slowly, brick by brick, you break the wall, you find yourself, and then you're free. You're not alone. In a weird way. I don't know why I love that line, but suddenly I'm not alone.
Yes, I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah.
It's such a weird kind of thing, because you know that you also realize that no one's coming to save you, first of all, right?
No one
one's
is
coming to save
coming,
you.
Carina.
You can, like, I loved my fairy tales, but no, there's no white knight that's going to save me from myself. I have to face myself. And that's the way it is, right?
So that's the line of the song. Only I could save myself from me.
Yes.
Right.
I love that.
So I bear, and this is, I had two ways to take the line. So only I could save myself from me. So I bared my soul, and I wrote for all to see. And I said, that's not right. So I came back to it, and it's actually, I bared my soul for just me. Because it was really nothing to do with, it wasn't about showing people. It was really me looking in the mirror and looking at my own self and my own soul and who I was. And was I, what kind of person did I want to be? What kind of person did I really want to be? And that's how you break out.
Yes, I love
looking
that.
in the mirror.
Having the courage to look in the mirror and say, you know what, I accept you and I love you for who you are. Oh, and I can change. I have that opportunity. It's all about my choice, right?
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. So now you live life on your terms, right?
Yeah. Best I can. Best I can. I'm still, still the human. Somewhere in there is
yes. But that's what makes it beautiful, right? You imagine if our lives were perfect, how bored would we get? We would get bored. We need to be challenged and to try new things and experience life.
You grow. I mean, if you're there and you absorb it and you're in it, you got that, you got your connections going. It just makes you, I don't know, stronger, different. And like you said, you enjoy life, right? You're living it.
Yes. Yes.
That's fantastic. I hope people can listen to this. I hope they can get some, that to take the courage to go through that threshold we talked about.
Yes.
And to face, to get over the fear it's like getting in the cold ice bath. It's not as bad as you think it is.
No,
it's just it's your mind, completely playing a trick on you. How bad you're not going to die. Just take the step. Yeah,
or having those cold showers. You start, like I started cold showers. Oh no, I don't want to do this cold shower. And now it's like, oh, it's the best part of the shower. It's so invigorating. It's so beautiful. Yeah. So we can change anything we like. I love it.
Absolutely.
Ken, tell us where we can find you again.
Yeah, so the last one, just thejar.live, www.thejar.live. and again, you can follow along where I'm going to be on the Road Trippers map. And you can also find a link to the book. So everything is really there. It's a great spot. It's a great spot to go.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Ken. This has been so exciting. The time just disappeared, as it does. Thank you so much for being here. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And, when you're next in San Diego, let's take a look and see what the jar has to tell us.
Yeah, I'm excited to get you on.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks, everybody. This has been beautiful. Thank you, Ken. And we'll see you all next week. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.